So it is the 9th of May today. Not a bad day in terms of training. Leg feeling a bit better since I took yesterday off. Not perfect, but again, better. And it helps I'm taking another day off tomorrow, so again, that'll help as well. Got quite a bit of writing done, but I didn't get much sleep last night, so after my work shift this morning, I basically ended up going home and sleeping for 5.5 hours. So I did get some writing done this morning, but the rest of the day was kind of shot. That happens. And then I had to email clients and some stuff like that this evening, so didn't really get to do much else after that aside from working out. I will say that the arm workouts are starting to get boring. They are certainly the most time intensive of the evening workouts. They, because you're doing 15 minutes and then a 5-minute break, 15 minutes, 5-minute break. Then you're doing some shoulders for a while, and then you're doing another 15 minutes of calves straight. And all said and done, that one tends to take about an hour and a half or even 2 hours, simply because the rest times, get a little bit ridiculous when you're working for 15 minutes straight. And I will say that I've gotten to the point where I'm simply not enjoying them as much. I'm not getting as much of a burn or a pump from it, and I'm just sort of getting, really exhausted and, struggling to keep going for 15 minutes. But I'm doing it, but it's definitely becoming the most obnoxious of the workouts, which is funny, of course, because for the effort that I'm putting into it, this is the set of workout, or this is the workout that I'm getting the least benefits out of. It's the work that's probably the least useful overall in terms of what it's actually doing for my body, simply because a lot of these muscles, the arms, the shoulders, are already getting worked out elsewhere. The calves, some calf work is important, but it's not hugely important. It's really hard to actually build muscle in the calves, and same thing with the traps, simply because your body, they're small muscles, small ranges of movement. It's it might feel like it sucks. You might get a pump, you might get some burning, but you're not really going to be doing much. It's kind of one of those things of risk, or not risk versus reward, but effort versus reward. And this is one of those things where you just have to put in a lot of effort for very little reward in many cases. Aside from that, I spent a good deal of time today looking up the NuSI study that proves, it's not 100% yet, but that nail in the coffin for evidence that two things, that ketogenic diets are not inherently superior, and also that they don't have, and also that the insulin hypothesis for obesity is also probably false. So for those that don't know, Gary Taubes is the big guy who has been advancing this hypothesis for years, and he funded this study from the Nutrition Science Initiative, which basically set out to prove that he was right and actually prove that he was wrong, or at the very least prove that it's not a very, if it is an effect, and I'm sure it probably is, it's probably just very small. The study seemed to suggest that there was maybe an advantage of about 100 calories per day, but that also coincided with less lean mass retained and more fat mass. So that's actually, not ideal, and that's not what you want. So long term, it would probably balance out. Obviously, the study is not 100% out yet. All they have so far is this YouTube video where the head researcher just talks about his findings. And so the whole paper is not actually published. We don't have the fine details yet. But it's just kind of silly, how up in arms this has so many people, because there's obviously a lot of, ketogenic diet proponents, and Taubes himself, of course, that, just don't want to believe that this is over. And I have a James Krieger. He's an excellent scientist. He did a debate with Taubes last year in which he posited, he showed like 20 things that would have to be true if the insulin hypothesis was true, and none of them, like we have evidence against most of them, so it's extremely unlikely that the insulin hypothesis is true, and there we are. So to give kind of a little bit more detail to that, the insulin hypothesis basically suggests that the sole cause of obesity is issues with insulin levels in the body, and that obviously carbohydrates spike insulin and can certainly cause insulin issues more than fats and proteins, simply because they don't have the same blood glucose insulin response. So the idea is, of course, that carbs are to be avoided if you want to avoid getting obese. And of course, for people who are diabetic, low-carb diets are actually extremely useful for managing diabetes. But at the same time, that's not to suggest that high-carb diets cause diabetes. We have plenty of studies and plenty of populations across the world that eat extremely high-carb diets and don't have these issues. So yeah, that one. I guess was probably directly refuted by the study. The other suggestion is that ketogenic diets, which is high fat, low carb diets, tend to have some kind of metabolic advantage, which is to say that whether or not insulin is actually the real problem, they basically cause your body to burn more calories or to retain fewer calories, basically leading to lower energy levels and thus weight loss. So again, the study suggested maybe about 100 calories. That's a really small number. That's about 5. That's a 5% difference, which is, it's significant, but it's not probably enough to really make a huge difference. That's the kind of thing where people would probably just eat 100 calories more, because it's just a small enough difference that it's probably not going to change, cause any serious changes. And again, they did note on the study abstract that this was accompanied with loss of lean tissue, which is undesirable because, of course, that means lean tissue. The more lean tissue you have, the higher your metabolism is. So if you're losing lean tissue in the process, that means that long term you're going to be basically burning fewer calories, which is a no-no. So it will be interesting to see the final paper when it finally comes out. It's obviously kind of premature to make any kind of conclusions based on that, but that's the big one. That's the big health and fitness news that's been kind of going around lately, and of course there are so many people up in arms, as always when anything like this comes out. So anyway, I'm gonna go to bed. It is kind of late, and I do have work in the morning. So as always, like, comment, share. Tell me what you want to see in future videos, and have a good one.